Welcome today to our conversation. I've got Dr. David Ashby, who is the founding member of Mustard Seed Wealth Management, one of my partners in the business. Please check him out on LinkedIn and on our website. You can see his credentials and all the stuff that he's been involved with. Today we're going to talk about the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act that was passed in Congress last week. A $2 trillion stimulus plan.
Right.
And that's a lot of money, even for Congress.
It's a lot of money, even for Congress.
Even for Congress.
Yes, it is.
And there are a few things that the bill gave, and one of the things was stimulus checks. Pretty much most people are going to get a stimulus check either by direct deposit or by paper check, but it's basically $1,200 per adult, $500 per child, and there are some income limitations on that. So if you are single and you make over $75,000, some of your benefit may be phased out. If you are married filing jointly and you have $150,000 in income or more, some of your benefit will be phased out.
Okay.
But that should be coming online in the next couple weeks. People should be getting those just direct deposited to their bank, or the checks next month. There are some other provisions in the bill, so I'll let you talk about some of the other provisions.
Well, one of the provisions is that it waives the required minimum distributions. Folks that are over 70 and a half, or the new rule now is age 72, have to start taking money out of individual retirement accounts. And the problem with that is, or not a problem, but it creates taxable income for folks. That rule has been suspended for 2020, so you're no longer required to pull those monies out of your accounts. Which could save you a lot of income taxes if you have other sources of income that you can draw from. The nice thing about that is you don't have to pull required minimum distributions out, but you can still make charitable contributions. Most all of our clients that are over 70 years old and that are charitably inclined have checkbooks on their IRA accounts. So they make their donations to charity directly out of their IRA. That keeps that from being a taxable event to them. And then they take a standard deduction on the tax return. They can still make the qualified charitable distributions out of their IRA, even though they're not required to take the full amount or any of their required minimum distributions. So some good opportunities for saving taxes for clients this year due to the CARE Act.
Yeah, sure. And another thing too, for if people are in a bind and need to pull money from their 401k or their IRA.
That's right.
Yeah.
If they need money out of the IRA or the 401k, normally there are very strict guidelines. It's taxable income to you, but normally there's a 10% penalty for withdrawals if you're under age 59 and a half. Those penalties are being waived if you need to make a withdrawal from your IRA or other type of retirement plan for a COVID-related problem, such as you've been ill or a family member's been ill, or if you've been off work, had your salary reduced or whatever, and get into a financial bind and need to make a distribution. Yeah. Still would be taxable income to you, but it would not be subject to the 10% federal penalty.
Right. A lot of other things they did. They expanded unemployment benefits. They did a lot of stuff for small businesses and stuff like that. And I've covered some of that in other videos. But what do you think? What do you think long term? From a macro perspective, what does dumping $2 trillion on the market do, or what are the implications for people that are investing, people that are saving? What are some of the things they need to be aware of that this could impact?
It's hard to imagine how this is going to affect us long term. Traditionally, here's a big issue in our economy right now. We've been running a $1 trillion a year deficit for the last several years. That means that the revenues we take in versus the monies we spend, the federal government goes in the hole by about $1 trillion per year. Historically, there's two good reasons for deficit spending in the government, in the federal government. Number one is we're fighting a war, or a major war. We're really not doing that right now. We've got some troops stationed here and there, and we've got some things going on, but we're not fighting a major war right now. The second thing is we're needing to dump money in to stimulate the economy. Over the last few years, we've not needed to stimulate the economy. Our economy has been running like a well-oiled machine, for lack of a better way of saying it, and yet we were still running a $1 trillion a year deficit. Now we are dumping an additional $2 trillion in government spending which looks to me like on the surface raise the deficit to at least $3 trillion, if not more.
And that's not counting what may come,
Yeah.
phase 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, who knows,
Yes, and then we've given such tax relief. There's going to be tax credits, job credits, things like that. So it looks to me like we're going to be light on the revenue side, extremely heavy on the expenditure side, and so the deficit, the annual deficit, could balloon to well over $3 trillion. Money that only a congressman can understand. Only at those levels can a congressman understand. And I don't know what the long-term implications are. We will be looking at very quickly a $25 trillion plus federal debt, which is now larger than our annual GDP. We'll be over 100% debt to GDP ratio. It's interesting times that we live in.
So. And one of the implications, I think, is that the government has a huge vested interest in keeping business going, because that's how they make their money.
Sure.
And by dumping this much money into the market, into consumers' hands, they're trying to stimulate people to spend that money to support the businesses that we all use. It kind of goes back to some things we've talked about in previous videos and in previous places about, why you need to be invested in stocks.
Right.
Well, the government has a huge vested interest in keeping the stock market afloat. And so this, for good or for ill, this will help, asset prices increase.
Sure.
There's fallout to that on the inflation side.
Yes.
But again, it kind of goes along with why it's important to be invested in the market.
Right. Yeah. Almost all of our clients, even if they're risk averse and are somewhat leery of the stock market, and particularly now investors are nervous, but almost all of our clients need a mix of stocks and bonds, because stocks will keep ahead of inflation over time by a significant amount. The way to build wealth over time is to use the stock market and to not panic in times like this and start selling out at distressed prices. So markets, we always go into something like this thinking, gosh, it's different this time. It's terrible. It is terrible in the short run. But if you look back at a graph of the stock market, it's an upward sloping graph. Stocks go up over time. In the short run, it can be a hairy ride. But in the long run, investing, sticking to a plan and sticking with it through all times pays off. So,
David, I appreciate you coming.
Sure.
Appreciate you talking with us about this. Hopefully, this will be helpful to people thinking about what they do from here, and it'll give them some information about what they can do if they're on hard times, if they've fallen on hard times. There's a lot of relief valves that have been pulled for this thing that will allow people to take advantage of some things that they couldn't have absent these rule changes. So hopefully it'll be helpful to some people. So thanks for the discussion.
You bet. Thank you.